So this is something which we need to understand. So as a configuration engineer, or what are your responsibilities? So your answer will be on the lines of working with teams, setting up branching strategies, creating release branches, doing merges, resolving conflicts, and training the development teams on the best practices. So this will be your typical discussion on what are your CM responsibilities, and make it a point that you take pride, or you like training development teams on best practices. That will give you a clear +1 when you are actually talking about your team qualities. So the next question, which we have not looked before and which we will talk now, is what are hooks in Subversion? How do you use hooks in Subversion? Okay, that's very good question, and which I want you to be clear about. There are various types of hooks in Subversion. The most widely used hooks are pre-commit hook and post-commit hook. So what is this pre-commit and post-commit hooks? Whenever you are about to commit a particular change, if you want an action to happen before commit, you use pre-commit hook. Or if you want some activity to happen as soon as you commit your change, that is post-commit hook. So first of all, where are these hooks located? Where do you find these hooks? Whenever you are installing Subversion repository, where Visual SVN server, it will give you a location for repositories, if you remember. Something like repositories, something like that will be there. This is your repository structure. Okay. So, and when you are installing Visual SVN server, it will give you where do you want to install the server. So if you see your Visual SVN server installation, there you will see folders like conf, dev, db, hooks, etc. So for us, the focus is on this folder hooks. Wherever SVN server is installed, there you will find the repositories folder. In the repositories folder, you will find conf, dev, db, hooks, etc. If you open this hooks folder, you will see lot of EMPL files. So they are named as generically .empl. Okay. Now SVN has given you a flexibility that if you want to write a hook in Windows, you can rename this pre-commit to pre-commit.bat, post-commit to post-commit.bat. If you are writing this commit hook on a Linux environment, rename this pre-commit to pre-commit.sh. Rename this post-commit to post-commit.sh. If you are writing this script on Python, rename it to Python. If you are writing on Perl, rename it on Perl. So this SVN has the power, SVN has the flexibility to run your scripts on multiple languages, be it Bash, be it Shell, be it Python, be it Perl. Okay. So what are the scenarios that you will use? Suppose you have a requirement, right? When anybody is making a commit, he has to put a comment format in a particular way. So you want to impose that restriction. You want SVN not to allow any commit if the comment is not in a particular format. So you need to write some logic so that if the comment is not in particular format, SVN will not allow. So before commit, you want this logic to run. That is where you use pre-commit.bat. Similarly, just imagine a scenario which you can use in your interviews to perfection. You can tell like this. We have an environment where we have a Jira as the project management tool, which contains issues, which contains requirement IDs. So if any developer closes one requirement, complete the coding for a requirement, in the SVN comment, he will put that requirement ID. So if the SVN, in the SVN hook, I have written to read this requirement ID and accordingly close the requirement in the Jira, or in my Jira there are lot of issues. When developer fixes an issue, he will put the issue ID in the comment. So the post commit will read if the commit message contains a requirement ID or an issue ID, I will close the corresponding issue in Jira. So this is an example of post commit hook. So this is how I used pre-commit and post-commit in my previous organizations. So when you have to answer the question, how do you roll back a commit or how do you do reverse merge in Subversion? We have to explain saying, we go to SVN log, we identify the change that needs to be reverted, and then if I am using command line, I will use SVN merge and I will give the revision range as reversed. Or if I am using tortoise, I will right click and say revert from this revision for the particular commit that I want to roll back. The next, though it is obvious, but many people will hesitate even in interviews, is what are the clients that you have used? On Windows machines, I use Starteam, that is the GUI, graphical user interface, and it is very user friendly. On Linux environments, I used command line Subversion from CollabNet. So these are the two things that you should explain to them. Generally, they are very primitive questions. Only when they have doubt about you, if you really know Subversion, the questions can start from there. So that is about the clients. These are some of the widely used questions, widely asked questions in Subversion. Now, let's move on to ANT. The first question that you will generally come across in ANT is on ANT properties. So, the question will be, are ANT properties immutable? Or can you change ANT properties at runtime? This is the question that most likely you will get. Can you tell me about properties in ANT? The answer is, in principle, ANT properties are immutable. Means when the runtime execution starts, when a build script is in execution, whatever property value is set in the beginning, that value will be retained throughout the execution of the build script. That value will be retained throughout the execution of the build script. Even if we change the value of the property in the middle, that value will not be reflected. So that is in principle. You explain. Then he will ask, is there a way that you can actually tweak it? Is there a way that you can actually tweak it? So that is one question. A related question for that is, how do you do, can you work with regular expressions in ANT? Can you work with regular expressions in ANT? So these are two things that are important. So let's first take the smaller question. How do you work with regular expressions in ANT? So let's go to ANT manual. See, using tortoise also, you can restrict the commits. You can restrict the comment messages in a commit. Suppose if you want to say this, if the comment message is less than 2 characters, which means I treat it as a blank commit, I will not allow it. Just imagine something like that. Okay, just right click, Tortoise SVN, you go to the section of properties. Okay. So here I am just explaining another thing in Subversion. How do you restrict a comment message in a commit? So here you can see when you click on new, here you have things like executable, means you can call any executable here. Any batch file, anything you can call. Okay. Here you can see log sizes. You can go to advanced. Here you have lot of properties. You can see number of properties that you can set. Suppose if I want to say SVN log minimum size. Okay. If I say SVN log minimum size, if you are all seeing this, I have an option SVN log minimum size. Okay. I am just clicking this. So property value, I am saying it as 2. Means I want the log to be of having minimum size 2. I click OK. Apply the property recursively. Let it turn on all the folders and subfolders. I click on OK. Done. Now you see that I have set a property here. Now when I commit this, you can see that a property is modified. Okay. Setting up a property so that the log size is minimum 2 characters. I click OK. Okay, here I am committing to some tag. Okay, it's okay. This is a practice thing. So generally I don't want to commit like that. Okay, so now what I have done, locally I have set a property and I have sent this property to server. Now let me make a change here. And let me try to commit it. Let me do a blank commit. You can see the OK button itself is not enabled. The message is log message is too short. Can you see here? If I put one letter, still it says log message is too short. If I put 2 letters, now the log message is enabled. Because I have set a restriction that the log message must be minimum 2. Now if I click OK, it will be committed anyway. That's okay. That's different. That is how you can put restrictions on the comment message. Similarly, there you see log template also. I am just reversing it because ideally I should not be putting changes to tag. Just bad. Anyways. So for this, if you want to set say property like new, see here you can see minimum number of characters for a commit message. You can also set like this. If we say executable, here you just executable means give any batch file to print anything it will do. Suppose here if you want to say I want to follow a particular template for commit. So it helps you to give a particular message here so that you say this. So when you try to commit, you can see the message already available here. So that is how you set particular log templates, and if you commit this, anybody who is trying to commit on this particular branch or trunk will have this commit message readily available for them. That is how you can set restrictions that everybody should follow a particular commit template. Everybody should follow particular commit template. So this is how you can set restrictions. If you don't commit this, it is set in your local machine. Whenever you want to commit, it will be a template form. But if you commit it, this information will be sent to server. And when somebody take an update, that information will be coming into their machines. So in those scenarios, whenever they are trying to commit, an automatic template will be coming in the commit message. This is how you can put restrictions on commit messages whenever you are making commits to trunk or any branch. Let's move on to Ant. So, couple of things before I go into, we have picked up couple of questions on Ant. So, let us do first general question. What are your automation responsibilities in the build automation side? So, your build automation responsibilities will be writing and maintaining scripts. So, when I say scripts here, they can be in Ant, they can be in Maven, they can be in Shell, they can be in Make. Generally, these are 4 things which people will maintain as build scripts: Ant, Maven, Shell, and Make. So, which one to be center of your discussion is based on what he explains as the, when the interviewer starts his discussion, he will explain this is my process. So, you nicely set it up on one of these lines based on what he is communicating. If he says we are doing builds on Maven, then you start taking discussion on, you tell that I have worked on Ant, Maven, Shell, Make. Maven is where I have used most. That would be in line with his thinking. So this is scripts. So what are the things that you do with your scripting? Creation of jar files, creation of var files, and then writing scripts to automate the deployments, then starting and stopping the services, scheduling the builds with cron jobs, especially on Linux environments, then connecting to remote servers and running some commands using secure shell, SSH execution. These are some of the things that you generally do as part of your build automation activities. If somebody who is good in, interviewer has seen Ant and Maven, then he will ask, what is the difference between Ant and Maven? So what do you answer for that? Ant is more of a scripting type, very powerful, built on Java language, and we can do automation of many activities, both in building the project and deploying the project. The problem with Ant is too much of scripting involved for achieving these goals. The advantage with Maven is Maven comes with predefined templates, and if we are using an existing archetype, the dependencies, compilation paths, everything will be taken care automatically by Maven, and it will generate the pom.xml and required dependencies, which otherwise I have to write the script manually with Ant. So the way the dependencies are handled is lot easy in Maven when compared with Ant. This is the biggest difference between Ant and Maven. Use regular expressions. So what is a regular expression? Regular expression is something that you would generally use. Regular expression is something that you will generally use when you want to filter something, or if suppose in a file you have a token and you want to replace that token with another value. Okay, now let me take an example. Let me go to Ant tasks. Let me go to list of tasks. So here you have a regular expression. So replace regular expression is the task. Okay. So what does it do? Replace regex, okay, is a directory based task for replacing the occurrence of a given regular expression with a substitution pattern in a selected file or a set of files. So what it does, it will check for an expression and replace with a substitution pattern, be it a file or be it a set of files. So that is how you will use this. Okay, now let me take an example. So what are required here, guys? Very simple. Which file I have to modify? What is the comparison I have to check? What is the word I have to replace? Is it not? These are all important. What is the file? What is the string I should check? What is the replacement I must make? Let's see an example here. Here you can see an example. So when working with regular expressions, if you see this example, the task is replace a regular expression. By line means check for every line. Now what is the regular expression pattern? Whenever you are working with regular expressions, you need to understand what is the pattern that you want to check, what is the substitution that you want to make, what are the files that you want to do this operation. Three things. I repeat. One, what is that you want to check in a given file? What is the change that you want to make? And what is the file set? Is it a directory? You want to do it in a directory or in a single file? So you need to do this compare and replace. Just imagine your notepad. Sometimes you will search for a word and replace, right? So same thing that you can do here. So what this task does is, do by line is equal to true means in a file search every line. Pattern. Check for a pattern where you have a property like old property is equal to anything can be the value. Dot star means substitution expression. New property /1 means whatever value is there, retain it. File set directory. Dot means current directory. Whenever you see dot, understand it as current directory. Include name is equal to star dot properties means any file that ends with a name called properties. Okay, so what I am saying is, you search for in the current directory, you search for any file which contains the extension dot properties. In that, look for the regular expression which contains, search for a property which contains old property is equal to blah blah blah, and you replace it with new property is equal to that value. So here, what it does, replaces occurrences of the property name old property with new property in a properties file, preserving the existing value. So whatever value is there, that will be retained, but name of the property will be changed here. So just I will take this example. I will just place it as it is here. Don't do anything else. Okay, let me say old is equal to, let me say new is equal to. Okay. So in my build.properties, I will have old is equal to. Similarly, I will put another file. So another build-copy.properties, whatever it is, it's okay for me. I will open this file also. So here also I have old is equal to 1. Now I am going to run this script. I will say and-v. Whenever I run in -v mode, it is kind of verbose mode. Okay. So whenever I run, I run and-v. So it says with OS Windows 7. So it's running the target. It's replacing the pattern. Old is equal to dot star means anything. with new is equal to /1 means value retain the original value and file is changed and saving the updated file. So that it has done in a file called build-copy.properties. Similarly, it has done the same thing in the file called build.properties. By line means it is checking for every line in that particular file. So it did the changes in both the files because I have kept in my script, if you see, I have kept in my script replace regular expression is the task. I have told it to check every line and I gave the pattern as old is equal to something to be substituted as new is equal to the same value. I asked you to check in current directory for all the files which are ending with dot properties. So that is how you will work with, regular expressions. So the question that we will understand now is how do I change the value of a property in AND at runtime? How do I change the value of a property in AND at runtime? That is the question we will try to answer now. So let's go to an example here. So I have my build.properties, okay? I have my build.properties. Let me give some name of the property. I will say build number is one property. Build number is equal to 10. Okay? Now in my build.xml, I will say echo the build number is dollar build number. Okay, I will end this echo. I'll explain the scenario clearly. Now if I say build, now you will get echo the build number is 10. Below I will define another property here. Name is equal to build number. You know that I can define properties either in the script directly or I can put the properties in a property file and I can use those properties here. Okay. Value is equal to so and so. I will say 11. Now I run it. So if you see here, still the value of build number is 10 only. Why? It is because first I am loading this properties file. So when I am loading this properties file, I am setting the value as 10 and throughout the execution of the script, the value of 10 will be retained. Suppose if I put this line above and if I run it, here you can see build number is 11. So what do I want you to understand is whatever value first you are loading into AND at the beginning of the script execution, you cannot change the value of it in the middle of execution. That is what I mean by AND properties are immutable. You cannot change the value of a property at runtime in AND. Okay. So that is in principle. But is there a way that you can do it? So can you do it with a workaround? That is what I will show it to you now. So for this example of how do I change a property at runtime, I will use a task called replace. So generally, if you want to replace, what do you expect? Okay, tell me, where do you want to replace? What is the token that you want to replace? And what is the value that you want to give? These are three questions that you will ask. Which file? What is the token that you want to check? What is the replacement value that you want to give? Is it not? Good. So here, So let me use a replace task. Okay. So let me use a replace task where I will say file is equal to build.properties, then token is equal to, I will say build number. So what I do, I look for a token 10 in this property file and I will replace the value with 12. And I have a property, I have another task in Ant where I can load a particular property file. Here I have load file. Okay. So here I can say or I can simply even say property file is equal to. There is one thing called you make that change. If you want to change a property file, this is how you do it. You have a task, you have a tag called property file in Ant. You have a task called property file in Ant. If you read this content, what you want to do is Apache Ant provides an optional task for editing property files. This is very useful when wanted to make unattended modifications to configuration files. Okay, so what it wants is, it will want the file that you want to edit. And once you give a file here, property file, give the name of the file here, and you say check for an entry which has this key and give this value. In that way, actually what you are doing is, you are actually putting a new value. See here, for instance, I will copy the task here. I will copy the task here, and here I will put the task. So I am having a file called build.properties. Okay, and I will have an entry there, build number. I have the value there. Previously there is a value of say 10. Now what I am doing is, during the process of the build, I am quietly opening this file, checking for an entry called build number, and I am replacing this with 12. So in the next target, I am again loading the build number. Here also I am echoing the build number. So what I am doing here, you try to understand. I have a value already defined in build.properties file. The value is 10. Okay. So when I run this one, it will print the value 10. And quietly I am opening that file, looking for an entry build number, replacing it with 12. So in the next target, I am freshly loading that file, which will load now with a value 12. And when I run this echo, it will print me 12. Okay. So I will say first test depends is equal to regex demo, and so I will say default is equal to test. Now let me run it and see. Tags must end properly, otherwise it will give us errors. let me remove this depends. So let me just, this is 10, okay. Now let me go to this build script. Now if I run this regex demo, you will see value is 10. So default is 10, right? I will try to run different targets. If I say regex demo, you will see that the value of property is the value of property is 10. Now if you run the test now, you will see the value of property is 12. So in the same build script, you can actually change the value of a property by using the property file task in add. That is what I wanted to explain you. It is little tricky, and only those who want to ask some tough questions, interview questions, will be asked in this one. But you try to explain them. I have a property file concept in add with which I can edit entries and I can replace with the new values, which in other targets I can reuse it. Is this clear? Okay. Next question, probably last question for the day. How does your team work, or how do you work with your teams? See here, your answer should be an interesting answer will be on the lines of agile methodology. Okay, so you need to tell them we have a product backlog, or we have a requirement backlog. So we work in the model of Scrum. In Scrum, for every release, we have a set of sprints. For us, a sprint is 4 weeks. So every time we follow Scrum model. So in every sprint planning, we look at requirement backlog, and from requirement backlog, the team will pick up which are priorities, and it will make them as sprint backlog. And we are also though we are build engineers, we are also part of the sprint planning meeting to see if there are any new modules to be built, if there are any new infrastructure requirements, if you want to procure any hardware. So to understand all those things, if you are having any dependencies, for those purposes we will be part of the sprint planning. So, and we will also know when the sprint will end. Accordingly, we need to create release branches, and accordingly we need to plan the merge activities. So that is how we work as a team. I